I'm extremely happy to be here today talking about scale success. I've been working on scaling success for about the past 8 years, so back in the early days. And I'm delighted with the growing importance of scale success being here on the main stage. I really believe that scale isn't just critical to serving more customers, especially over the last few years. We've realized that scaling the great work of our success teams is actually critical to the success of customer success as a whole. So my name is Allison McPhail. I really appreciate you coming. I'm privileged to be leading scale at OpenAI. And if you're here for the previous session, I promise I will have a little chat with ChatGPT about what a CCO should actually be. But it's great to be speaking with you today. All right, so for today, what I really want to do is convince you that scaling isn't just about doing less. I want to shift our perspective to think about scale as a way to do a lot more. I want to walk through a couple of key milestones in my journey figuring out scale over the years, because that's the best way I can communicate to you some of the step levels that I went through in figuring out what does quality scale really look like, and hopefully it will resonate with you regardless of where you are on your journey. Finally, we'll just do some key takeaways so you can leave with something that's valuable for you. One of the things I'll say in putting together this slides deck, it starts to look really clean and organized, and I promise it isn't. Something that we used to talk about with my team is like most days when I was doing the best work, I felt like that meme of the guy on the chalkboard with all the math and the crazy, because scale is about building a system, and that's really complex and not always the most organized thing. And I just want to give a shout out to anyone here who's working on scale stuff. That can be designing your first experiment. It can be figuring out champions programs within the largest and most strategic accounts to scale your impact. Or a special shout out to ops. Figuring out how to build systems around something as human and organic as CS is a really special and interesting thing. So it's hard work, and just shout out if this is something you're trying to figure out. So first, to redefine how we think about scale and shift our perspective a little bit going into today. Really, I believe too often when we think about scale, we think about scaling back, making sacrifices where quality inevitably takes a hit. In customer success, we're incredibly good about being empathetic to the customer who's right in front of us. But my goal today is to challenge us to rethink that notion, because when we zoom out to 100, 1,000, or even 10,000 customers, scale isn't just a way to control cost, it's a pathway to achieving higher quality as well. And really a good measure of scaling well, the result is a lot more for the greater collective. So before I jump into some of the key milestones as I look back on my journey scaling at Slack and now at OpenAI, I want to give you more context into where I was at that time. I began my career at a startup, really small, like 8 people, and then we got to like 25 people, and that was really exciting. And then we went back to like 12 people, which was a lot less exciting. But everything we didn't scale. Our product was different for every customer we sold to. We were trying to find product market fit. We needed to close deals. Standardization just didn't make sense at that time. Doing everything custom was appropriate, and that's okay. If you're in that phase, embrace it. It's a time for deep learning and understanding and innovation. And then I shifted and I joined Slack as an account manager back in 2015. And we had a highly standardized product. Slack grew up as fully self-serve, almost consumer, but for businesses. And we were still, while we had a product that fit the market, we were still discovering how we work with customers and what they needed beyond our product. The name of the game was learning. We deeply engaged with any user that came our way, even free, and we were spread across all different company sizes, all different industries, and all different maturity at Slack. It's one of the times that I've learned the most about the customers that I was supporting. And I shifted into a customer success role when we started the team at Slack a little bit into my journey there. And our focus was on partnerships with the largest customers to understand the needs and the challenges of customers who were most successful with us. What did they need to grow next? What was the next evolution for them? Slack was originally designed as a product for teams of up to 100, and then people had so much value from it, they really wanted to use it across their organizations, and we didn't know what that looked like, and I really think that was the focus of this time. We did a ton of things that didn't scale as we were learning, and that was fully okay too. I really, really loved the work as a customer success manager at the time. And I remember the moment of really believing in what customer success could do for an individual and for a company, and how much it was critical to the success of our business. But I looked around, and Slack was in a very fortunate position of having thousands of business customers that could get a lot more value and they can expand. It was a huge, huge, huge opportunity for us. And it was really clear that us bringing people into each customer was not going to serve the growing customer base. There was no way we could do it. And there was no way we could add all these people and just continue to ensure a high quality experience. Each person needed onboarding, and in order to protect the culture and the craftsmanship that was so core to what Slack is, we just couldn't keep adding people, even if cost-wise that makes sense. So we needed to find ways to scale our efforts beyond CSMs. And that was kind of where I started on my journey to thinking about scalable ways to do this, scalable programs. And I learned a lot by doing along the way. I got a lot wrong. But looking back, I can see some of the inflection points as we got closer to kind of having scale and quality and essentially having our cake and eating it too. So at the time, that didn't feel like it was possible. It all felt scrappy, and really, was this going to add up to something significant? And it totally does. And going through the journey, I'm more a believer in what scale can bring to customers and companies. So I want to talk you through just 5 of my key milestones, and hopefully you'll learn something along the way. So the first thing I really focused on was experimentation and collaboration. One of the key mottos I had in my head at the time was, how would a human do it? It's something I learned from working with developers at the prior startup I was at. I would go in, I would say, I have this great idea, or this customer has this great idea. Can you do it? You have the engineering and product magic. And they were like, we need to figure out the steps here. Like, how would a human do it? And then we can figure out how to operationalize. And that's exactly what I did in the early experimentation days. I looked through the work that I was doing, and I tried to shift some of the small components. Not like, how do we launch at scale? That's probably too big to tackle first. What are the components of launch that we can operationalize and apply it to a more programmatic approach? At that time at Slack, we were doing almost everything through our CSMs. And a big driver for me personally, if I'm honest, is like I really, really hate, and I'm pretty bad at, doing the same thing twice. So we had a great new product launch, and it was like, send this to all your 20 customers, and I would get to like 4. And then the remaining 16 may or may not have gotten the news sometimes. So things like, what can we run through campaigns for my customer base? What can we run then through all of our customers that are supported by a CSM, but also ones that aren't? The impact of guides and bringing sales and support along on the journey. Emanuela talked about thinking about your broader team. This is extremely true in scale. If you think within your own organization, you're always going to need more headcount. But if you think about the shared goal to make customers successful, there's so many people that you can partner with and learn from, and this was incredibly effective for us, especially with marketing and delivering end user education through scale webinars. There were a few hiccups at this point. I remember one of the first things we did was try to drive adoption of the mobile app through an email campaign, and admins did not like that. So we had to take the feedback as we went, but we pushed through and we figured it out. We established a process around programs and programs ideas. We educated the broader CS team on what programs were and why they might be useful for us, why it wasn't marketing, and we found the people across Slack who were willing to work with us. Folks in marketing, folks in ops, folks in product, across the board, people were like highly engaged in making customers successful through these more scalable ways. And those were folks I continued to lean on throughout the years. The lesson I take away is I didn't know how to do programs at all at that time. I didn't know what was a good fit for programs. I didn't know what appropriate calls to action were. I didn't know how to set anything up or to measure anything, but we got through because of all of the time we spent learning our customers. And in customer success, I think your greatest superpower is the ability to advocate on behalf of your customer, to know your customer. So what I would advise anyone who's starting on their journey today, rely on that knowledge and intuition. You're not marketing for a reason. You know what your customers need, and doing that at scale isn't that different than the work that you would do one-to-one today. So go in with that confidence. You'll learn who you need to work with. You'll learn the skills to deliver programs, and you'll have support. The second thing that we focused on, and this was almost in parallel, to be honest, is figuring out ways to engage with our customers in a one-to-one way, in something that can be more scalable than dedicating someone to a customer. And we could only do that for the top, I think it was 200 at the time. So one of the things that stands out during my thinking during this time is I got advice from a mentor: focus on where you can add the most unique value. And we got extremely obsessed with what was truly impactful for customers. We were asked to do dozens of things every day, but what was the thing that I could uniquely do as a human strategic consultant in front of my customers? And we did that. We learned what worked, and we built light playbooks. Don't build 50-page playbooks, please. 2 pages, 3 pages. Humans only need a little bit of guidance, and we want them to be flexible. We don't want to prescribe what their work is. That's what's most important about them. And then we built healthy constraints. So for us at Slack at the time, we created an engagement-based model where there was a time-based period where we could work with a customer on a clear outcome. At OpenAI, we're spreading this across our entire customer success motion. So even if you're a dedicated CSM, you should be working on engagements that are clear and scoped with your customers, and you should be looking back and saying, what did I accomplish? How many engagements did we partner on over the course of our period working together, even if that's for multiple years at a time? Looking back, what I take from figuring out high-impact engagements, yes, you have to say no, but what I think is more important, especially now with the integration of AI into our work, is we are incredibly privileged to hire very talented, eager, smart people who want to figure stuff out, and we should make space for them to do that. So we should always be driving our people to focus on new and novel things and looking at their work as ways and opportunities to automate, to make processes, to make it easier to do what we figured out. This can be uncomfortable if someone's really good at training and you say no more trainings. That doesn't feel great. So do think about like the change management as a role is always evolving, and I think the best way to do that is just hug the elephant, put it out there, say that's how we're designing our team. At this stage, we were kind of up and running. We had some programs, and we had people doing high-impact work, great. But our programs got more complex. We wanted to run programs that were triggered off a user's behavior, that were responding to something in real time. And we couldn't do that with the current skill sets on the team. We kind of reached our upper limit. So we established a programs team. It was called Scale Programs at first. And advice I got from one of the leaders in the business was to be careful to not become a backwater. Be careful not to become something that's in the background, that's forgotten. And that was really top of mind for me as I shifted over my career to focus on programs, and as I hired people into programs roles, and there weren't digital success people out there at the time that you could hire from. They were changing their careers as well, and often entering customer success for the first time. So the way that we designed the team was that each person on my team who joined owned a customer outcome. They owned something that was like admin success or user onboarding or driving adoption of core products like Connect. They had to know what that took. They had to know what the customers needed to do that. They had to build the strategy around it. They had to build the plan to execute at programs, and then they had to execute and measure the results. So they were super connected to driving customer need. And it's something that I see break down a little bit is when our programs people are only responsible for the programmatic execution and not knowing the customers. That's a big tip. And then we wanted to prioritize customer impacting work. As soon as you hire some programmatic people, they may have come from lifecycle marketing roles or something like that. They find all of these ways to optimize your internal process. Great, super good ideas, but we're customer success and we want to focus on time on what's customer impacting. So our guideline, just like you might have for CSMs, was to spend 80% of our time doing work that was going to impact customers, not improving our processes, though a little bit of that is critical too. And the third thing that I would highlight during this time is we were really upfront that we were looking for unicorns for this role. You need someone who's analytical, who can understand the customer base at the numbers level, who can work with data, who can pull SQL, and we needed someone who's creative. They could observe a CSM, they could see how something was done by a human, and they could translate that into a series of programs that creates a similar collective result. And extremely collaborative. As I mentioned earlier, one of the early learnings was there is no point in doing this alone. It's super connected to the organization, to product, to marketing, to analytics. My learnings as we set up the digital success team was finding champions within the organization who could integrate what we were doing into the broader collective goals. Janan was a great champion, and he really helped us integrate scale programs, digital programs, into the work of dedicated CSMs as well. We also found champions within our product organization who wanted to drive adoption of features, and bringing every product through a CSM created a lot of friction. Programs allowed us to have broader access, and that replicated over and over. So be really visible and make it easy to engage. We were pretty structured in having briefs for every program, having a governance council, allowing people to have feedback and approve, and that was across all of our segments and all of our global regions and all of our cross-functional partners. The fourth thing, sorry, and this one's a little controversial to come forth. Fourth was really figuring out how we measure impact and how we harness signal from all of the activity that we were now doing at massive scale. Most people I talk to who are setting up digital programs think about this way earlier, somewhere in step one, and there's nothing wrong with that, but figuring out how you measure the exact impact of an email campaign or one webinar and waiting to have these incredible results from one thing can often pause people from investing more. And with our CSMs, if you think about that as a parallel, we don't say don't go do trainings because we don't know the significant impact of one training. We really understand that it's a collective impact. And to do that, to find the collective impact of programs when you're sending a whole bunch of different communications across a whole bunch of different channels, takes a lot of investment in the foundational infrastructure and building the right framework to do what you need. So this actually came a little later for us. And we had confidence we knew our customers, we had confidence we were doing the right thing, and we were relying on early but incomplete signal. So what we did do was we created a source of truth early. Absolutely everything we were doing, we used Gainsight to track scale engagements. We used Salesforce campaigns to track every single outreach through emails and events. And we had this source of truth that we could build up and then bring to our data science teams to create the right measurement framework. And the way that I think about measuring the impact of our work in scale is in three core ways. The first being reach. That's the name of the game. How do we get out there? How do we put great things in front of customers? Engagement. Are they engaging with what we're saying? Are they clicking on that email? Are they coming to the webinar? Are they joining the roundtable? This shows we're meeting them with what they want to have, what they're looking to receive. And then finally, and most difficultly, takes the most investment is impact. Is it actually changing behavior? So we relied a little bit on reach and engagement, one-off results about impact. But over time, we built a framework that was able to automate that and do it at the cumulative level. So how does engagement with a series of campaigns result in a user being mature? How does users within an account engaging in dozens of different ways with us result in a higher maturity score for the account level? And when we finally got to the point of having clear metrics here, I had 10 people on my team, and we were sending 3 million touch points every quarter to our customer base. So I was a little nervous, actually, that we weren't going to see anything. But luckily, just a teaser there around user adoption. The more customers engage with our programs at the user level and the account level, the higher the correlation to strong results across all of our core metrics were, and very significantly, and across all segments. So this shows SMB, mid-market, enterprise, and large enterprise. And we saw this to be true for adoption, for product maturity, for expansion, and for net new deal size. All of that is great. I was really happy with this, but the lesson that I took here as I started to think through our framework and how we were going to measure this is actually the most important signal you'll get is the signal you don't get. The people who don't engage with anything, the things that you don't see, the quiet customers, especially when you're looking across thousands, that's really where the risk is. And for us, like what I will always acknowledge is a lot of this is proactive engagement with our customers. It's really hard to programmatically address risk. And that's okay, because then we can see where programs aren't working or a scalable approach is less effective. And we can really take that relationship lever that we have, our people, and choose to apply it to where this system is less impactful. Finally, what feels a little like it could be the last piece of the cake for me is AI, doing it all more intelligently. Interestingly, at OpenAI, we've started building our scale foundation pretty much from day one. I joined shortly after the launch of ChatGPT Enterprise, and there was just a rapid pace of customer growth. And we have a strong belief that scale is a core foundation of a healthy success organization across all motions. It needs to be baked into the way success operates, and that's one of the things I enjoy about my job most today. It's awesome, and it's challenging, and I know we're not alone. Many more companies are baking scale into the way they think about success from the beginning. A core question I have now, though, is not just about how we scale. What can we do that's going to be effective to drive more success from our customers in more programmatic ways? It's how can we do it much faster than our previous journey, given the growth rate we're on? And more importantly, how can we do it more intelligently? And for me, it really feels like AI is the next big unblock into scaling success and moving beyond some of the prior limitations that I felt without it. As an example, the way that you can create personalized experience at thousands of millions of users was never possible prior, and that is something that's within reach now. We are transparently still figuring out all of the applications of AI within our teams and how we serve customers, and I think most people that I speak to are in the same boat, and the models are always evolving. But there are 3 categories that I think about incorporating AI into how my team works and how we serve customers today. The first is building an AI-enabled team. So an analogy that you can think of is a therapist who works directly with their customer, but they go and they engage with AI to help diagnose and to help treat that person. There's still a human experience for their patient. And we're doing this in a lot of ways, actually, and fortunate to be at OpenAI where everyone has access to the tools and the desire to do this. By leveraging AI, we now understand customers and their relationship with us within minutes versus hours or days. We use AI to understand our risk tolerance with CS and have something that our CSMs can engage with and brainstorm against. And things like translation are just like no-brainer. We always have human in the loop still for anything that's customer facing, but we're able to do a lot And I think that's not just important for CSMs saving time and doing more with more customers. I think it gets really interesting that it allows us to have our CSMs take on broader scope confidently. They have access to so much more support. Questions like, can someone serve the entire life cycle? That to me is like not a question anymore. Questions like, can our team serve multiple product lines? With the support and knowledge that AI brings, also not a question anymore. People can be experts in much broader things now and feel confident doing so. The second is AI-enabled customers. So how can we extend AI directly into supporting our customers? And this is one thing I think needs to be done extremely intentionally, and we're making some inroads, but the future is not here yet for us at least. But things like we offer a GPT assistant to help our customers and every end user find the right use cases for our product. We can build ways for customers to create and craft their vision statement and comm strategy. And as I mentioned, that personalized approach for every end user through all of our channels and through product is very much within reach now. And it's really knowing how would a human do it first. That expertise we have from working with our customer is then applied into these more scalable ways, not the other way around. And the third is AI. Oh, sorry, and the third is AI-enabled processes. So there's a ton of ways we can look internally to address customer handovers, to have health scoring actually inform us of what's going on with our customer base and detecting anomalies. There's so much room for efficiency and effectiveness in our processes, which is essentially scale. But we do need to have the underlying foundations, the underlying structures, and the data captured. I think my big lesson here is we're all really trying to figure out how to apply AI. We know there's a big opportunity. And my path forward now is not thinking big, 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 how do we totally rip everything down and do it again? It's thinking in every small moment, every process we build, or every way we engage with customer, how can AI help here? Not how can AI do this, but how can AI support me do this a little bit better? All right. Those are my big milestones from across the years, just thinking about how we can be a lot more scalable in our scale teams, in our scale programs, but really across the success motion. And my key takeaways are that scale does drive more collective value, and really to not approach scale as a compromise, but an opportunity to increase the service across your customer base. The second is you can't overdo focus and collaboration. Focus on areas that you can uniquely add value and collaborate with other teams to maximize your effectiveness and what we're trying to do with customers as a whole. And I do really think AI is the next milestone for scale, for doing personalized, bespoke work, responding to customers in new and novel ways. And integrating AI is just a way to get smarter in enhancing our team, in enhancing our customer engagement, and enhancing our processes. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Talk about scale all day, so I'll leave you for now, but if you have any questions or anything I can support with, please do find me.